The title of this exhibition is These Petrified Paths, and the title has been chosen very deliberately for the multiple meanings of the word petrified. Petrified, as we know, refers to being frozen in fear or terror. But there's another meaning of petrified that I thought was very important to foreground in the show, especially on the fourth floor, through the artworks that are composed of cloth and lace and the images. And that is the idea of geological time. It's important to remember we've only been here about 200,000 years maybe, and our obsession with oil is barely 200 years old. And this one mineral has been formed over millennia really. If you think of the Earth as the stratified nature of the Earth, if you make a cross-section of our planet, it's really millennia of compressed dust, compressed biological matter. It's living organisms that have been actually substituted with minerals, and that is actually a process called petrification. I wanted this obsession to be the background context for my focus on the plight of Armenians in Armenia. While I was filming there in September of 2022, Azerbaijan again attacked this region. This region has been blockaded. They've had no water, medicine, food shortages and so on. And it's not reported in the media at all. And this is at the heart of my work, which is the stories that don't get heard. So the exhibition occupies 4 floors. The third floor, which is where the film is the subterranean floor, which is the infrastructure we don't see. It's the real story. It's the hidden story. We see all our glittering city skylines and our fancy buildings, and we think that this is forever and this is immortality of our civilization. It's the peak of our civilization, but it's really not. Right beneath all of that runs the cables, the electricity, the sewage, and we don't want to know it's there, because all the unseen that is subterranean is what we don't want to see. We just want to see the image of things, the facade of things, the face of things. So the third floor, which is where the film is subterranean, and that is indicated by the fact that the 3 main elements in the third floor are the pipeline, which is always, pipelines tend to be underground, and with this viscous black liquid, and we don't know what it's composed of. It could be dangerous. I mean, if you've seen Prometheus, you know what I mean. It could be toxic, it could be benign, we don't know. And it kind of runs and feeds into the screen, which is where the film is projected. And the film is the heart of the exhibition. It's the story. It's all the things people don't want to hear. It's women erased from history. It's women who do all the work to keep the literary treasure and heritage of Armenia, in this case, alive. And yet, where are the women's writing? Most women remain unpublished in their lifetime. I mean, the joke is you have to be dead as a woman to be recognized. But Armenian literature is largely male-centric, and yet all the cultural workers who preserve literature or promote it are women. So again, this speaks of that infrastructure, the unseen, what we disregard. Cultural workers who are at the lowest rung of the ladder, so to speak. And then also you have the third element, which is the rocks and dust and the sand. The phrase that stood out most for me was, we only have rocks and dust, we don't have oil. And then when you come up to the 4th, 5th and 6th floors, you see this giant pylon. The 4th floor actually represents a kind of sacred space, and because the first thing you enter, you see the almighty petrodollar, which is, the pylon represents that. But the pylon also represents transmission not only of energy, but of power, of knowledge. And by knowledge, I mean, what are the dominant narratives we are fed all the time? And how do you disrupt that? So the other works in the exhibition, the works on cloth, and cloth is such a domestic material. Domestic knowledge is so undervalued and so disregarded. We only value kind of dominant narratives we're taught in school. No one teaches us to, tells us or sort of kind of values the knowledge that is passed on within families. And so the work that is actually crucially important, what keeps the world running, which is the cleaners, the people who cook, the people who take care, the caregivers, the ones who get basically paid the least, the teachers, the people who sew and stitch, and all of these people. It kind of, these materials represent that, and it represents, and it's been there from the time we Homo sapiens have been on this planet. We care for each other. We survive not because we're individualistic or competitive, but because we care for each other, and we are social beings. And that cloth represents that, which is why it hangs on the cables of the pylon like laundry, like kind of almost casually. It's not hung with a perfect exhibition hang.